In this video, I'm going to illustrate how to mount a badminton racket onto a 6-point stringing machine. A 6-point machine, as its name suggests, supports the racket at 6 locations. The first one, which is the most important, is the 12 o'clock support. And this supports the top of the frame from the inside. And then there's a 6 o'clock support, which supports the bottom of the frame from the inside near the tee. These two together prevents the racket from compressing inwards when we pull the main strings. The other 4 supports are the 10 o'clock and the 2 o'clock support, as well as the 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock support. These 4 together prevents the racket from expanding when we compresses the main string when we tension it. So let's take a look how we actually put this racket onto the table properly. Okay, so let's start with the turntable itself. I have a small Alpha Shuttle Express, which is a small badminton sized turntable, and the dimensions are very badminton specific, and there's nothing that really needs to adjust. For most of you, you might have a tennis machine that is designed for both tennis and badminton and other rackets, and in that case you want to adjust your mounting post to be appropriate for badminton, and that is putting the mounting post kind of at a distance that is suitable for badminton racket, and at the same time making sure that the distance from each post to the center are pretty much equal. So you want to do that first, and then after that you want to put the racket onto the machine. So for my machine, at the 6 o'clock support, I don't have a low spreader. I just use a single point support. Usually the T is strong enough to hold the force of the string pulling it. However, at the 12 o'clock support, this is a weak point on the racket, and usually we'll prefer to have this piece, which is called low spreader, and which you can get from mybadmintonstore.com. And what it does is it evens out the load across the width of the low spreader, and what it does is it prevents any damage to the 12 o'clock point of the racket. Okay, and if you look at a normal racket, you usually find a dot. This tells you exactly which point the 12 o'clock is. Sometimes you might, if you don't look at it, you might mount the racket a little bit off to one side, and that is not good. So you want to find this dot. Sometimes it's a triangle, sometimes it's a square, sometimes it's just a line. So you want to align the 12 o'clock point right at the 12 o'clock center of the 12 o'clock support. Okay, and after you put it in, it's time to tension this screw so that the racket is tight but not overly tight. You don't want to stretch the racket too much. Some people recommend stretching the racket by maybe a millimeter or so. And that depends on your machine and depends on how you experiment, looking at how your racket comes out. If it comes out always a little bit tight when you bring it out, maybe you can expand it a little bit. So I usually do maybe a millimeter or so to do the 12 o'clock support. Okay, and after you do that, you want to tighten the 10 o'clock and 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and as well as the 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock. We always tighten the 10 and 2 together and the 8 and 4 together at the same time, just to make sure that the force that you apply to the frame is symmetric. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this together, and when the support touches the frame, Most of the support you see in the market are adjustable. You can twist it a little bit. So you want it to be flat and flush against the racket on both sides. Okay, so you want to wiggle a little bit, making sure that it's still, nice and tight, but not too tight. Okay, a little bit firm, but not too firm on the 10 and 2 support. And then you come back and then you do the 8 and the 4 o'clock support. Okay, checking, making sure that the 6 o'clock support is actually aligned with the shaft, and also the 12 o'clock support is aligned with the support itself. These 4 support determines the lateral position of the racket. So when you tighten them, making sure that it's still perfectly aligned. And sometimes I come back and check whether this has become loose. If this become loose after I tighten the support, that means it usually means that these are too tight. I want it to be as tight as it was before I put in the support. Okay, so now what you have here is a very firmly mounted racket that shouldn't shift while you are stringing the racket. That's it. I have shown you how to mount a badminton racket on a 6-point support stringing machine.